Bingo bango. What's your thango? Welcome to Ice Cream You Mean. JD. All right, I don't know what that was either. The spirit took me.
I have no idea why you even decided to say bingo bango.
It's called bars, JD. It's called having.
Oh my god. Okay. All right. Okay, so that's what they call it these days. Bingo, bango, bars. All right. God. What?
That's gonna be it. A podcast about the internet.
Oh god, this isn't even episode 30. I think we're like, what?
We're almost there. It's 29, I think.
We're 29.
Yeah.
God. We're getting there. We're getting there. Oh god.
The dirty 30s are going to be a bad era for everybody.
I'm turning 30 this year.
Oh, congrats.
Oh god, man.
I'm a couple years away still.
I'll let you know how it goes.
Yeah, despite the who looks older, I am the younger one on the podcast.
I'm telling you, it's the bangs and it's being Asian, I think. the combo of bangs and being Asian.
I have the whiteness working against me. Have you seen, like, there's a lot of discourse about Gen Z kids aging very poorly? Like, there's, like, Gen Z creators that people are like, huh, you're, like, in your 20s? I thought you were, like, 45. Like, Jordan the Stallion, you know him, he's like the guy who shares like TikTok recipe stuff. People say he looks like Method Man's older brother.
What?
People have been really getting on him.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Who is okay? You know, I don't. Okay, listen. Everyone's gonna age. We all end up in the same place. The first thing that comes up when I look up Jordan the Stallion is Jordan the Stallion age. Okay. Like, okay.
He's like younger than me. I think he's like 26, 25.
Oh, I was gonna say he's our age. Like mine.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I'm very bad at how people like look when it comes to age. I can't guess. Yeah. And I never want to be like, you look old. I always lowball it because, like, yeah.
Yeah. No, I feel it. Yeah. And I feel like I look old, so I'm not here to be like,
yeah.
You know, I'm not coming for you, Jordan the Stallion. You have a much bigger platform than us. I really like that you share fast food recipes. Those are very helpful.
He's very handsome, so.
But he's a very handsome man. I don't know why people are going after him for his looks. I feel like that's definitely a thing where it's like, hey, you know.
Oh, this is the guy that's like holding the phone up to the. Okay, yeah, okay.
That's cool. Him. That's his thing. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I did know this. I think it's just because I'm Asian and I have bangs. Whenever someone says like you look so young, I'm just like, as an Asian person, I will age at 60. I think very abruptly.
It hits pretty hard when it hits, but it's like until then.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm 60. I'm fine. I use sunscreen. I moisturize. I'll be okay until I'm 60, 70. Yeah.
I think like the sunscreen and skincare is also that's gonna help prolong that. Yeah, closer to 70 than 60. Yeah. Probably.
My grandma, my dad's mom is like 100, so and she looks fine. So I think. Yeah, you know, I'll be fine. I think I'll be good. I think I'll be good.
You got.
Yeah, because even my other grandma, she's like 60s something. She's almost 70s. She looks fine. So I think genetic wise, I'll be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, sunscreen and moisturizer. I'll be good. Yeah, I didn't know this.
Flex. But apparently Gen Z. There's like some discourse online of that like millennials are like coming for Gen Z people for aging poorly, which
guys.
I don't know. I mean, like, I feel like there's like millennials that look like in their late 30s and 40s too. It's not like, I don't know. You know, this is like a weird generational beef thing.
Yeah, I think, you know, sometimes I wonder if the generational beef, the millennial and Gen Z beef is like an online white person thing. Because I think I didn't really think about like the millennial Gen Z thing until sociology stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And like, obviously, you hear about, like, Gen X, the boomers, like, but I didn't think about, like, the millennial stuff until, like, getting into, like, the sociology stuff. So I was like, do I not understand, like, the whole, like, oh, yeah, all millennials will wear skinny jeans and we don't wear, I'm like, I don't know what's going on. Is it, like, the trend report versus, like, kind of thing? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like generations generally are kind of like a marketing ploy more than anything, right? So, like, yeah, it's like a weird little kind of like, oh, we're dividing the market up kind of thing. Where it's like, look, kids, this is like cool for you, but then for the people in their 20s, this is what's cool. So you can kind of squeeze more money out of different groups.
I think I understand it better that way.
Yeah, so I think that's what the capitalistic machinations going on behind it. But then, like with anything, there's always like the people that like make it their whole identity, where it's like, oh, I'm a millennial, and it's like, okay, well,
Like,
you're
more
than
you're
that, probably.
a whole lot of other things. Don't sell yourself too short.
Yeah, you're a Disney adult. That's the other thing. That's the
millennials may own Disney adult.
I think that might be. Yeah, it seems like mainly them. I mean, some Gen Z people, so I think
they're handing it down to their younger cousins or kids. I don't know.
We're never gonna get rid of them. They're gonna be around for.
It's gonna be
quite
insane.
a while.
But yeah, millennial. I think go ahead and claim that Disney adult for now until Gen Z gets adult.
Yeah, and the Gen Alpha kids, the Skibbity Disney adults.
What is the whole line again? This,
the Skibbity toilet. What do you mean?
Like, what is the whole phrase?
Oh, it's isn't it like it's like that Skibbity beep bop bop dop dop yes yes one, right?
I have no. What is the one that's like shit? Oh my god! I'm like.
I think of like you're so Skibbity, you're so Phantom Tax. I just want to be your Sigma.
I was gonna say Alpha, but it's
that famous
Sigma.
song.
Okay. Oh
it's
my god!
Sigma,
yeah. Sorry for getting Skibbity Toilet and the Phantom Tax song confused, everybody.
Yeah, get your Skibbity straight.
Sorry, but yeah, maybe that's a new phrase. Get your Skibbity straight, dog.
Get your Skibbity straight. I kind of like that.
All right, everybody. Ice cream you meme. Creamies, start saying "get your Skibbity straight." Okay.
Yeah, we gotta what is that? We gotta print this out, send it to ourselves, so that we have the
Don't
copyright
open the
on
letter.
this.
How do you spell Skibbity though?
So have it postmarked. Skibidi.
Oh, D-I. I thought it was 2 E's. Okay.
No, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So don't anybody take that 4 months from now.
Yeah. Like this
4 months from now, we will have the rights to it when this is released. Oh god.
That's right. So JD, you mentioned you had something.
Oh my god. Okay. Yes. Yeah. This may have something to do with a local creature. Maybe not local. Maybe like a couple hours away creature that you've covered previously.
Mr.
Yes.
President
Okay. Okay. So you have seen on Instagram, like I posted like Minnie like meowing at the door very weirdly, and I'm like, she's a weirdo, blah blah blah. And I was like, that's completely fine. Minnie's like weird. She likes to meow at like the closet so she can go inside. So I was like, I thought she wanted to go in the garage, but then like she did it like 3 times, and then I heard like something fall, and I thought. I'm like in you've been in like the kitchen area. Like I was on the floor sitting down eating floor time, and I thought it was my brother. Like he was asleep, but he may have moved and hit the wall. So I was like, okay, cool. Okay. And then Minnie starts meowing more at the door. And I think to myself, thump meowing. There's an animal in the garage that got in. I was like, we have like a bunch of like random cats. Maybe like my dad like left the side door open. A cat got inside. Sure. Yeah, a raccoon. And I was like, okay, if it's a cat, it's fine. I can get it out. If it's a fucking raccoon with its little hands, Method Man at the window hands, I was like, no. I should probably like get up or like try to open the door or like worry about it tomorrow. There's nothing in there other than like maybe Yuan's car. And then I'm like, I get up and like our front door light thing is motion censored, but you can't trigger it from the inside because there's a curtain. So I get up and I go to the kitchen area. So the window, even if I pass by it, even if that would trigger the motion sensor, it wouldn't go off. So I'm there and I'm like, Minnie, you're being weird. I gotta go. And as I'm like putting my cup down, the light turns on and I'm like, oh, there's an animal, right? Because my brain isn't immediately going, there's a person, because I would see them like walk through that window thing. So
they're tall enough.
And if they're crouching, I could see on like the front door camera that there's a person there, but there was no one. So I was like, okay, cool. How far does it trigger across the street? Sometimes it'll trigger if a car comes. So I was like, shit. One, if it's an animal, I have to tell somebody that there's like an animal outside, or if it's a person, I have to like go wake someone up. So I wake up Yuan. It's like 1:30 in the morning, and Yuan sees on the camera that the light does turn on. So I was like, oh God. So we like go outside and I'm wondering if my brother's I don't know if that's my dad, but we go outside and like check the perimeter. It's completely fine. And we go through the front and we like look around, just check the cars, just in case like someone was going on, like whatever. And I'm shining my like flashlight across the street, and across the street there's like a shrub bush that's like height wise of like a person, like the top half. And I swear to God, I see like the bottom half of a person shine because you know, like if someone was wearing like a vest, like a safety vest, like
Right.
yeah, and my flashlight is
material.
dying, so I can only flick it on and it goes on, flick it on and it goes on. And it's like it shines against like what looks like very faint reflective pants. And I go, I don't tell you on, and I just go, oh, we're going inside now. Because in my head, I'm not thinking Fresno nightclub. I'm thinking there's a man standing across the street watching us do this. It's time to go the fuck inside. But and then I was like, okay, like what is a recycling? See, this is my brain now. Like if I saw a cryptid, my brain is like, there's a fucking guy out there. And then my next one was like, was there a recycling bin in front of there? Like the recycling bin is gray, but is there like a split in the middle of the recycling bin? I was like, the blue recycling bin doesn't look like that. You can't see the green recycling bin at night. So I literally like I'm rationalizing it. I'm like, I'm like, I was like, one, it's Vallejo. There's no Vallejo Nightcrawlers. These bitches are in Fresno, whatever. And I'm like, in my brain, I was like, okay, so it's either a person standing there and I couldn't see the top half of their head because they were behind like a bush. It was, you know, it's like a tree that's like this, and then the top half is right there, and you can stand right. So it was like a person 1:30 in the morning standing there, and I kind of flashed my light, tried to like fucking seizure warning that person like several times, or like it was like it was Thursday, so my brain is like Thursday is garbage day, so it's probably the recycling bin, but also like the recycling bin wouldn't like flash. Wouldn't be reflective. So I was like, I literally am like,
and you could see the recycling bin the next day too, and be like, oh, okay, it's not reflective.
And I was like, fuck my. I was like, it's a in my brain. I'm like, not the Fresno Nightcrawler, just a fucking dude standing in like the bush area, and I flashed him with a flashlight like 4 times. I'm sorry, which is like semi worse because why were you just standing there at like 1:30 in the morning? But also, if it was the Fresno Nightcrawler, what are you doing in Vallejo?
It gets around. It was seen in like Yosemite and like I think some other states too. So maybe you saw the Fresno Nightcrawler. I mean, like reflective pants on at night is a weird move for somebody who's up to nefarious purposes.
You would get caught.
Like, you're more. I mean, at night, generally speaking, you want to be more visible so you don't get hit by a car. But if you're like creeping around somewhere trying to steal someone's catalytic converter or something, you don't want. You're going all black.
Like
interesting.
Yeah, so I was like, man, like just the bottom half reflective. So I was like, oh no, that was just a guy or the gray. Not the recycling bin. The recycling bin is blue. The gray regular garbage can one. So I was like, I probably somehow managed to reflect against the garbage can. So
I mean the cans, they do usually have kind of like a little like insert, like a they kind of go in the middle a little bit. That could look like leg-ish at the right angle probably, but
so that's now a little the second proof for me that if I even saw a cryptid, I would be like, oh, it's a fucking guy. I don't think I'd be the best cryptid hunter then. I'd just be like, Ben, it's a guy. I like to believe. I want to believe so hard that I wanted to come on here and tell you, Ben, I saw the Fresno Nightcrawler. But now I'm like, it was either a guy or a fucking or a
trash can. Well, all right, we'll cut this out of the episode. No, I'm kidding.
No, wait, my brother has to hear it in 4 months.
I'm kidding. I mean, I feel it like, I don't know. I mean, it could, who knows? It's Vallejo. I think, it's fair to say the odds are, guy or trash, or maybe trash can at the right angle, middle of the night. We see patterns, right? We're human.
Yeah, and I'm already a little freaked out and looking for something. So
you're nervous, like you're like animal.
Yeah, in my head, I was already like, there's an animal. Yeah. If it's a guy, we can just be like, please go. So already I was in this state of like, I'm gonna see something. But potentially
Fresno
Nightcrawler.
A sighting of the Fresno Nightcrawler.
It's up to you. Everybody, icecreammeme@gmail.com. What did I see?
Do you have your front camera?
It doesn't go all the way that way because there's no light over there. So it's like night vision only. And it only catches the light of that house. And then, the thing that I saw, the garbage, whatever, it was like to the
like a different house.
The right of the house, but out of the way. Like I can see it, but I can't see it like that. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, it'll remain a mystery, I guess. But The truth is out there somewhere.
Out there across the fucking street.
Very close to JD. Truth. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of little creatures, let's get into it.
All right. So we're this is another SCP episode. We're both doing things from the SCP Foundation, which, if you recall, is a fictional foundation dealing with all types of mysterious creatures and happenings and anomalies. So I'll go first.
Let's go.
And let's begin with SCP-6643, Containment Class, Keter, Secondary Class, Gleipnir, Disruption Class, Flam, Risk Class, Danger. So, breaking down those technical terms, we have a difficult to contain, difficult to categorize, dynamic, potentially dangerous, but only in a localized form anomaly. The special containment procedures are if SCP-6643 is present, an esoteric materials handling incident is underway. Addressing said incident constitutes containment of SCP-6643. In the interim, personnel are advised to avoid contact with the subject. Description: SCP-6643 is an orange ectoplasmic pseudopod manifesting during any and all containment failures relating to the process of achromatic abatement, the neutralization of anomalous byproducts, with both mass and activity level scaling to the incident severity. Assessments of its cause, composition, and potential cognizance are difficult due to the extrinsic urgency of its manifestation conditions and the fact that no specimen has yet persisted beyond the triggering event. Achromatic abatement experts have colloquially termed this entity Vern. That's more or less the text of the beginning, right? And as with most SCP entries, we have some threads to pull here. So firstly, achromatic abatement. What is it? And what is achromatic? It was a word I'd never come across before. Achromatic comes to us from the teachings of Aristotle and the term acroamatikos, which means for hearing only. And the primary definition of achromatic is information transmitted orally and only to a select few, which perfectly describes our podcast. The SCP Foundation page on achromatic abatement uses it more as a synonym for esoteric, which is kind of a secondary definition of it. So the Achromatic Abatement Group is an affiliate of the Foundation. It was founded in the early 1900s by Wyn Rhys Ryderek, who first came across the concept as a child, when Ryderek, a boy in Alphendid, a Welsh mining town, which explains the fucked up names, found a mysterious stone. In the years after bringing the stone home, his family's behavior all changed. It was like they had completely flipped personalities. His father, who had previously wanted to leave town to find better prospects, suddenly changed his mind. His mother, who had been reluctant to leave town, wound up running off with an encyclopedia salesman. Ryderek, previously very driven, began to see coal mining as the only job prospect for him. Also, all of the grass around the house died, so that was a little weird as well. But he was reflective, and upon considering these changes of heart, Ryderek began to suspect that the stone was responsible. He locked the stone in the basement and quickly noticed that his desire to get into the mining game vanished. He'd gone from locked in to locked out. His father also became interested in leaving town again, but then the house caught fire under mysterious circumstances. All that could be determined was that the fire started in the basement, and the stone was unaffected. Ryderek recovered the stone from the burnt house and tried to dispose of it in a pond, but the pond dried up. He tried to smash it to pieces with a hammer, but it wouldn't break. He tried eating it away with acid. He tried anything and everything he could think of to get rid of it, but the stone stuck around. Ryderek had read that the stone would burn at the right temperature, and the right conditions came along when the mine caught fire. He threw the stone into the mine, and after that, things returned to normal. Even the grass around their house returned. He moved away with his father to Swansea and returned to college to study toxicology at university, as the British would say. In 1913, he founded the Achromatic Abatement Group and dedicated his life to the disposal of anomalous materials. The AAG is sort of a satellite offshoot of the SCP Foundation, serving as the Sanitation and Waste Management Department. The Achromatic Abatement Group doesn't just deal with anomalies themselves, but the byproducts of anomalies. So they're essentially part of the Foundation's work. After all, if you're having anomalies turning people into flesh piles or relics creating Olympic pools worth of blood daily, someone has to clean it up. Yeah, so this brings us back to SCP-6643, who only really interacts with the Achromatic Abatement Group. So the first time that SCP-6643 was cited was in 1921, while the group was disposing of a large quantity of magically enhanced mustard gas. The gas had never been used, and with the Great War well over, it was time to get rid of it. So as they worked on trashing the chemical weapons, something went wrong, and a leak struck. Staff ran to high ground and noticed a strange, translucent orange tentacle wriggling around the facility. Members of the group speculated the tentacle was searching for something. Some wondered if it was attempting to help staff, and then others wondered if it was trying to pull staff into the mustard gas. But when the ventilation system finally took effect, the apparition vanished. In the following years, Vern continued to make appearances anytime that there was an accident in achromatic abatement. Even minor accidents could lead to small manifestations. But the behavior remained unpredictable, with it sometimes appearing to show no interest in its surroundings, sometimes interacting with the released esoteric materials, and sometimes focusing on the containment apparatus. Likewise, how it appeared and where it originated from remained unclear. In one containment breach, Vern was seen absorbing harmful chemicals from the air and helping circulate air, thereby keeping Roderick alive. Observers felt certain that this was intentional and speculated that it may have been created by the achromatic abatement group, or the Foundation itself as a safeguard in case of emergencies. But this theory was called into question in the case of SCP-5243, so we got a separate bonus SCP right here, which first occurred on September 8th, 2002 in a facility containing achromatic abatement, applied occultism, and security and containment works, Site 43. The incident began with the release of emissions from an anomaly housed in the security and containment section, which led to an overload of the achromatic abatement facility's equipment. This led to a catastrophic failure, a chain reaction cascading from achromatic abatement throughout the rest of the site. Because of the nature of materials housed in the facility, some of these seemed to break the flows of time. Over the course of 7 minutes, 8 personnel were either killed or transformed into inanimate objects and fruit. One of the presumed dead was last seen being pulled into the achromatic abatement airlock by a translucent orange tentacle. And given the temporal nature of this research breach, the catastrophic failure and the subsequent 7 minutes of destruction have to play out every year on repeat. Those killed in the event are temporarily brought back to life, but they must be led to carry out the same events and actions as the original event in order to contain the event. But this was the first now annual instance of Vern acting a little aggressive or in a more harmful manner. One Foundation researcher proposed that they've thought about Vern all wrong. Quote, maybe it's neither a pre-existing entity nor some inherent component of the handling disasters. It might instead be an esophysical embodiment of the concept of catastrophe, a reification of the chaos inherent to such events. It's possible that we'd see it cropping up in disasters of every sort if more disasters involved esoteric materials. The kind of stuff that we work with at Acrobate might provide fuel it needs to manifest, whereas in your bog standard earthquake or volcano eruption or firestorm, it lurks invisibly at the conceptual threshold. Unfortunately, this researcher was unable to prove this because he subsequently died in a repeat of SCP-5243 in 2015. In another interaction, an achromatic abatement engineer rigged a controlled release of esoteric materials mimicking a containment breach and was able to draw out SCP-6643 for an hour, which it spent searching the area before disappearing seemingly of its own will as the release was still ongoing. This caused the engineer to speculate that Vern either realized it was not a legitimate containment breach or it was too small of a leak to be deemed worthy of its time. There's also speculation as to whether Vern is a consistent entity, if it's a part of a larger whole, or if every manifestation is just an independent entity, or if it's the same complete entity, just behaving differently and appearing larger based on the space-time conditions that draw it out. What it is, what it wants, and where it's from remains a mystery. And that's what we've been given on SCP-6643. So to me, I think that one of the strengths of this SCP is the way it fleshes out interlinks of stories of the achromatic abatement group. The page is filled with links to other stories, and it really makes it feel like Vern is this ever-present force lurking around the activities of the waste disposal wing of the SCP Foundation. There's some kind of Mothman elements to it that I like, right? The disaster warning guy. But I think that the industrial setting reminds me more of the Tommyknockers. Are you familiar with
the mines? They're in
yeah. That's where I heard on this. Yeah. So Tommyknockers are an underground iteration of the small people figure in Northern European folklore, fairies, gnomes, elves, JD, that kind of thing. So the legend of the Tommyknockers originated in Cornwall in Great Britain, where they were just referred to as knockers. They were largely viewed as benevolent, if mischievous parts of mining. And little strange. Apparently, they were originally thought of as like the souls of Jews that lived in the mountains. I don't think that's not carried on. But they were like, yeah, I was like, huh, weird, cool. I don't know why that has to be.
Just a little bit of anti-Semitism.
Little anti-Semitism, yeah, yeah, they're just the souls of Jews that were exiled into caves, and that's fun stuff. Thanks to European history. So, in the early Cornish days, mining was a lot more decentralized, right? Either individual or small groups of miners would sign agreements to work for landowners. They would do the mining. In exchange, they would gain a portion of the profits from these mines in a process that was called tribute mining, right? So the early versions of knockers were known to show miners to rich veins, and getting on their good side was a way to secure the bag, right? As mining industrialized, the most important role of the knockers became warning them about impending disasters. They did this by whistling, knocking. Anyway, the United States became a thing, and mining started happening here. And so plenty of Cornish people decided, hey, I'm used to risking my life underground. I bet being underneath tons of dirt is basically the same anywhere, so let's go to America. Much like the digital nomads of the 1800s, but with less gentrification. The Cornish miners came to America and brought the legends of the knockers here to the United States, where the name shifted to Tommyknockers, potentially because it sounds less like titties, but I could not find any sources to back this up. Cornish miners and the legend of the Tommyknockers spread in mining communities from the coal fields of Appalachia to the gold claims of California. In some instances, the legend was changed so that rather than being magical wee folk, or the spirits of dead Jews, the Tommyknockers were the ghosts of miners killed in accidents. But in many traditions, the Tommyknockers were still treated more like elves or fairies than spirits, and with the expectations of leaving them offerings and giving them their kind of due respect. The legend persisted until fairly recently. According to a web page on the El Dorado County website, there was a protest movement in 1956 to get the mine owners to, quote, release the Tommyknockers from employment in order so they could be transferred to another working mine in the California Motherlode. So I'm sure there was nothing more important or morally imperative happening in 1956.
Yeah, nothing at all. 1956.
Nothing going on there. No civil rights movement. And of course, the county seat of El Dorado County is Placerville, which has the nickname Hangtown.
Okay.
Because of the hangings. The city seal even had a noose in it until 2021.
Placerville.
Yep. Also, after the vote to remove the noose from the town seal, people started hanging nooses around town. So maybe go back to protesting for fairy working conditions. Whites.
Go do that. Oh my God.
Let's, shit talking on California's Kentucky aside. Vern fills an increasingly rare niche, the workplace monster. So unlike having to pretend to enjoy trust building exercises at your job, Vern and the Tommyknockers actually do something, right? They're both somewhat inscrutable. They can be helpful in times of disaster, mischievous, or vindictive, but they're both a presence in the workplace and a part of the culture of that workplace. While SCP-6643 is fictional, both of the creatures would fall into the category of occupational folklore. Of course, occupational folklore is not always about strange creatures lurking around the workplace, but they are always work-specific. They might be more general, shared among a field, like the Tommyknockers, or specific to a certain organization, like SCP-6643. It's a way of reproducing and maintaining the culture of a workplace. And it's definitely not all monsters, right? Like all folklore, there can be lessons. If you have stories about horrible accidents that you tell the new guy, that can serve to reinforce good behavior on the job, right? They can also serve to relieve tension at work, gossiping about a pain-in-the-ass coworker to a customer, swapping stories after something goes wrong, criticisms of technique, venting steam, talking shit, making jokes, sharing memes in the group chat, and of course, just telling stories are all things that people do on their jobs, right? So as I was doing this research, I came across a really cool resource I kind of just want to plug. The Library of Congress houses the Occupational Folklife Project, which started in 2010 by the American Folklife Center. It's a freely accessible and contains over 1,800 audio and audiovisual interviews with workers ranging from doctors to domestic workers, factory workers to lumberjacks. did I listen to all of the interviews? No, there's a lot. Of course not. But it's a really cool resource on the working traditions and working lives of all different kinds of professions. If you're looking for a jumping off point, personally, I was drawn to circus performers and park rangers. I thought those were both really cool. And there was also like just like waste management people that I listened to, because I was like, oh, that kind of relates to the SCP stuff. Didn't really find any connections there, but it was still cool. So get on in there, check it out, see what catches your eye or don't. It's your call. Work is, one of the main places that we spend our adult lives. It shapes us and we are shaped by it. So I think the author of SCP-6643 really captured this and the feeling of a piece of occupational folklore with the story of Vern, right? From the nickname to the association with workplace accidents, even including jokes told in workplace speeches, Vern fits very naturally into the work of the acrobatic abatement group and in the world of the SCP Foundation, where, of course, there's crazy world-ending, reality-altering forces, but there's also people in charge of cleaning up these supernatural byproducts and their minutiae and bureaucracy that has to be respected to keep facilities running. And, of course, there has to be cautionary tales about what happens if the rules are not followed. But when I zoom out to what really matters, and the stories of little guys at jobs, I wonder, and I pose this to you, JD, and to all our listeners, share, give us some comments, engage. Could we come up with like a modern day equivalent to the Tommyknockers or Vern, like little guys in maybe the office, little guys in restaurants, little guys in retail, blue collar jobs, remote work.
Oh my God, little guys in retail, like especially at like big clothing stores, they could be like, how, like when I was a little kid in the Philippines, like lots of kids would like hide in like the clothing racks, and then like got lost in one. I got lost in one before, so maybe like we could come up with like little stories of like little like kids like getting little kid. Come up with some stories of little kids, little creatures getting lost in those things, and like maybe helping some kids like return to their families by like teleporting them through like the clothing racks, or some like purposefully like hiding them because they want like new friends, because they're like, actually the world in Macy's is kind of cool at night.
I feel like there's also like a good warning thing for kids, and like the kind of like, hey, don't wander off because the fucking the clothing rack goblin will pull you in, and you'll have to wear a graphic t-shirt. Okay, there we go. Man, you're gonna be stuck in a gap.
Maybe like the other consequences, like you get where do those mannequins come from? You become a mannequin if you've been here for a long time.
Oh shit. That explains why some of them are so realistic.
And you're like, oh, do you want to be one of the headless mannequin? Those the mannequin heads, they end up in the wig stores. So see, you can connect the whole mall together.
Yeah, there you go. There's like they're working behind the scenes, the little clothing rack goblins. Yeah, I like this. Okay.
Yeah, so
cool.
Maybe.
All right, so we got to start spreading these stories. Seeding those into
Maybe that's our like SCP.
I think so. I like that. I like that.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, that's my suggestion. Clothing rack goblins.
Chime in, audience. Give us some other ideas. Any weird shit at your job?
Yeah, tell us about weird shit at your job.
Yeah. Maybe just tell us about I like talking about people's shitty jobs. Who sucks? Who do you not like?
You guys? Tell us.
Yeah, we'll make them into monsters.
Vent. Sometimes you need a vent. Yeah. Maybe you need a vent to us. We'll be like, fuck them.
Your secret's safe with us.
Who are we gonna tell?
We're cool like that.
You guys again?
You guys? Only the cool people.
Yeah, we're what is it? Achromatic. The cool kid.
Yeah. I don't think I'm going to be factoring that one into my everyday vocabulary, honestly.
I was like, I kind of squiggled it, and I was like, and I just read at the bottom, Aristotle, esoteric.
Yeah, basically. I mean, whatever. I think.
Yeah. I mean, this is cool. Like at one point, I literally put like, wait, I love Vern, and I drove hard around it. Just like, but I don't like. This made me think of like when we talked about like the SCP show, and like would they have like branches in like SCP NOLA, SCP New York. Like there's like, you know how we now have like the firefighters. CSI kind of thing, like this.
Sure,
we have the AAG like offshoot of like the original SCP show, like
Yeah, and I think AAG would be like kind of more of
Yeah.
a sitcom.
Ooh.
I picture it as like a little bit like kind of where it's like, like, oh shit, the blood pool is overflowing. Oh, here comes
Yeah.
Vern. And you could do like a Cheers thing where everyone's like Vern,
Yeah,
like he
like
comes out.
they're
Oh,
gonna give him
Vern. Yeah.
Ghostbusters in the fucking Slimer. He could be like
Yeah.
Ghostbusters situational comedy. AAG. Put that together. While I would watch SCP, I think maybe it'll have a tinge of seriousness that I maybe would like to go to the AAG sitcom more. Be like, oh Vern. The merch
Yeah, I think it could be fun. I mean, yeah, sitcom, kind of like a little modern, it could be some dark shit in there. We'll throw a little like, nightmares of, because you're gonna fall into like a pool of blood, like it's not great, it's not all perfect.
Some comedies have like a serious episode where you're like, damn, these are real people who live real lives, not always having fun.
Yeah, right. You get turned into a fruit.
the turned into a fruit one. I was like, hello.
Yeah, it was a cool story. So I recommend, checking out SCP, whichever the one was 55 something.
5243. Yeah.
5243. Yeah, it was a cool one, and dealt with like a lot of time loop kind of stuff where they had like each year different stuff that happened and how it kind of kept feeding itself basically.
And I just realized that Tommyknocker sounded familiar because when we were playing the Slenderman game that's been lost to time because it decided to corrupt in the middle of we had a lot of errors in that game. We encountered Tommyknockers. We looked them up mid-game while we were trying to find a way to end that one round that was in the farm area.
That was a pain in the ass.
That's why I remembered it a little bit. But occupational folklore is kind of cool. I think so. Yeah, and I mean, like, there's like so many, like stories that get shared only with people that you work with, right? Like, I mean, there's like, and that are like very specific to jobs. Like, there was like some of the articles were talking about like, truck drivers have a lot of like stories of weird shit you see on the road, or like picking up like a ghost hitchhiker. I didn't think about that as an occupational folklore. Like the taxi drivers in like the Philippines who are like, never stop at night because you're gonna pick up like a ghost lady. I didn't think about that in like a way that's like, don't stop at night because maybe like you'll like pick up someone who might like rob you. Like that's like the fantastical way to say it. Like you might accidentally pick up a ghost, or you might get like all your fucking
robbed.
Yeah. So oh my god, that's kind of cool. Like I didn't think about that as like occupational folklore. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, I didn't realize that was like a thing that like people like study that like this, like they're like folklorists who are like only study work stories, which
like
is
a fun little OSHA moment. Like OSHA, maybe you stop like being like, don't do this because you're gonna fall. Maybe it's like, don't do this because a little fucking creature's gonna like eat your ankles.
Look at them. It gets the message across, I think, when you're like, don't do this because you'll get thrown into the Foundation and turned into part of the building or something like that. You're like, that's fucked up, that's scary.
Maybe have a little imagination, huh?
Follow. I was just thinking about like the Chinese work safety videos.
I've never seen those.
Have you seen those? They're like circulating on TikTok. I get them on my For You page sometimes, where it's like computer generated things of like accidents that have happened, where it's like somebody getting like thrown into like a mulcher or something, and you're just like, oh, this is horrific. I get why this is a safety video, but dear God,
OSHA, get on that fucking level. God, incorporate some occupational folklore and some fucking 3D imaginings of what would happen if you fell into a fucking mulcher, dog. Did that happen in like Fargo or something? Doesn't someone get into
the wood chipper?
Vern? Why is he kind of just kidding? And that one was for everyone who was probably why is he kind of I kind of live for him in a like a weird I think the manifestation of chaos like theory was kind of
I feel like it's always like a cool vibe. I like the kind of like showing up a disaster is always one of my favorite things that monster can do, I think.
I love this, and the way that it can tie a lot of stories in the SCP together. Is it like I guess maybe like my question for that one is like when it appeared, when the person wrote it, did they already like tie in together like other like stories pre-existing, or like was it when this thing came out people started using this as a way to like link things together as well?
I'm not sure of like the the course of events. Because the main one that it linked to was like that SCP-5243.
Yeah.
And so I think that one may have come first because they talked about like seeing a glowing tentacle, and I would imagine that maybe like after that's when like they fleshed out the whole Fern exist as like a manifestation of disaster kind of thing. Yeah. But it's a cool instance of the SCP stuff, people doing what they do and just adding to other people's work or fleshing out their own world and the whole thing. Like I think the waste management thing, that idea of like coming up with that it's a very fun setting.
Yeah, because like, you do think about like the one that I did with the church. There's a lot of like body, like fat mass. Like maybe you like. What
do you do with that goo?
Who cleans that shit up?
Yeah. AAG.
Let's go. AAG. Let's go. Yeah. Facilities coordinators. We love you. So much.
Yeah.
Always.
They're the real heroes. 100%.
Love you. But just wanted to jump off of your point regarding 5243 with the whole like events and actions repeating itself. All stuff. Let's.
Yeah.
Are you ready to go into mine?
I'm ready. Yeah. Let's do it.
We're gonna do some event repeating, but today we're gonna start off. Today we're playing basketball. Are you ready to play basketball? Ben, how familiar are you with the game?
I've watched upwards of 10 to 12 NBA games.
Whoa!
My dad's a big NBA fan. So we watch the finals fairly occasionally. I'll watch like a game a year probably. A little casual, some lights on the site. Yeah. I know the names of some of the players, and I know more or less that you get the ball into the hoop.
Guys, not to flex, but Ben knows a couple basketball games. But as for me, I somehow unlocked a memory in my dark, funky mind that I did actually play a lot of basketball.
Did you? Okay.
Here I am, like, I've never done a sport in my life. I played a lot of basketball from elementary to like middle school, and then like that was like, you know how like you can choose to play a sport in like high school during like PE off days or whatever. I would play basketball. Right. At 4'11", I was playing a basketball, you guys. It was my sport, not even because I'm like Filipino and Filipinos have a tendency to like love basketball. There's that thing that's like in every neighborhood in the Philippines, there is a basketball court. So basketball is in the blood of Filipinos, but not even that, but maybe because like baseball is boring, boom, vine sound. Soccer and football is too tiring, vine, boom sound. Or that American football is way too intense for me. But because ball is life, and ball is life. And for those who are unfamiliar, just because I'm not gonna assume everybody knows what basketball is. I'm not here to, basketball. I'm not gonna gatekeep basketball. Okay, basketball you play on it's a sport played on a court of some sort. You've got two hoops on opposing ends of the court. You try to shoot a ball in the hoop. Bam, easy, whatever. Lots of things happen during the game, very obviously. But that's like the gist of it. You've got 5 guys. Not the food plays. You've got 5 guys on the court going against 5 guys, usually, that kind of thing. There's different rules in the NCAA, NBA, international, whatever. But that's the gist of it. Side note, though, while I was researching this, I didn't do this like cognizantly, but I accidentally watched 2 shows that involved basketball, which like triggered the memory of how much I loved basketball.
How much football?
I was like, wait, I like basketball actually, right? Were the shows good? One of them was. Would I recommend it to anyone? No. One, because it pissed me off. It is available on Viki though, which I spoke about in the most recent episode. I'm not gonna gatekeep a show just because I thought it pissed me off. It's called You Are My Sky, and if you ever need a show to finish in like 3 days that makes you a little angry and pissed, but also riled up for the sport of basketball and athletics in general, you should watch it. Maybe. But I still don't know if I'd recommend it, but like a couple of the actors do know how to play basketball, and the team is like nice. And you can skip through the other stuff that might make you mad. Yeah, just
focus on the basketball
Just focus
part,
on the
yeah.
pure desire to see people be really in love with basketball, and you get a character who was like, every time he like came on screen, I was like, look at this fucking anime villain motherfucker, evil ass guy. But turns out he's just a guy who just really loves basketball. Sometimes, sometimes your passion comes off to people as like you being evil. Yeah.
Evil.
But
Naturally.
but he just makes really bizarre decisions. Yeah,
like Michael Jordan.
Michael's secret stuff, you guys. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're talking about basketball in general, but we're going to specifically talk about a specific game of basketball. The October 26, 2010 opening game between the Miami Heat and Boston. Ben, help me out. Thank you.
Got it.
Played in the TD Garden in Boston for the 2010 to 2011 NBA season. More specifically, the recording of that game that we know today as SCP-1733. The recording was brought to the Foundation's attention through a Facebook thread on the 27th from a Boston viewer who was complaining about something that happened in the game that didn't happen in the original game. The Foundation copped the recording and did their usual Men in Black mind wipe shit and researched the hell out of this thing. They concluded the following: you cannot recreate this sort of thing that's happening using the same DVR that 1733 was recorded on. So every playback of SCP-1733 changes previous events that happened in the video, right? The more you play the tape or the video back to back, the more people can remember previous events. The recall state starts as thinking that they've dreamed of the event before, and then a feeling of deja vu. And then once you've played it a couple tens of times, it becomes a legit memory to the people in the video, right? They can remember everything that has happened to them more and more. So the people in the video are real people who attended the game in 2010, but it's important to note that they are separate from the people that exist outside of the recording. The Foundation looked into it and determined that they're simply different from their non-video recording selves. Think of it as this, right? Yeah. This Ben and JD is completely separate from the Ben and JD after this video. Yeah, right? Whatever happens to us in this video, when it's played to you later on in different form, it's different from what's happening to us in real life. Whether every time you play this video, a small figure behind Ben gets bigger and bigger and closer to the screen, that's completely above Ben and JD in the real world. Nothing is happening to Ben in real life, just in the video, right? I encourage you to go and read the briefing for 1733, but for the purposes of this video, the Foundation conducted several playbacks of 1733, and this is how they came to their conclusions that I mentioned above, right? Some of the notable playbacks of the tape are playback 15, where both the Heat and the Celtics seem to have an intimate awareness of each other's plays, despite it being the first game of the season. So this results in a 0-0 score for a large part of the game. In playback 27, the commentators mention feeling deja vu, and the Celtics win in a way that feels like a redemption, despite it being their first game of the season, right? In playback 45, players have decided that they will no longer play. They have feelings of intense disorientation from feeling like they've lived the day once or several times before. They feel uneasy, and it's not just them. Everyone at the game feels it. At 45, everyone in the stadium agrees that they've done this before and they need to get the fuck out, but they can't because they realize that the doors of the stadium won't even open and they just can't get out, right? By playback 65, factions have broken out amongst the attendees and the teams and their personnel. So the factions are the teams, the personnel, the infirm and their parents, the infirm, the parents, and the kids. This is dubbed as group/section 320. Then we have the faith keepers, and then we have a group of adults who are hell-bent on figuring out a way to get the fuck out of TD Stadium. 1733 gets played tens and tens more times, with our last playback being labeled at 112. But the last three noted playbacks are redacted numbers, so we don't know how much more they play it, right? But it's noted that in the very, very last playback, the stadium changes for the first time ever, and it becomes bathed in red light. 1733 is intense, and not something that I realized when I just read through the SCP briefing for the first time when we found it hitting random. I thought like this was going to be my version of the Shaggy Dog SCP, where like, I've like replays changed the ending right? There's a new like there's maybe like a couple versions of the replay, but turns out like every play of it is like a Groundhog Day from hell for everyone in the video. And but like the sort of good thought of this is that like the people in the recording are separate from the real life people, and they're not suffering the same way that their digital selves are suffering, right?
Right.
And you can probably guess that because of all the suffering that was noted in some of the playbacks, like for example, a man getting concussed in playback 51, and then in the next playback, that same man beating his attacker to death in playback 55. And then we have playback 95 with hedonistic displays of sex and violence. Then playback 112, people leaping from a balcony just to like get out of this situation. And then in one of the in the unnamed playback, there is the sacrifice of Paul Pierce from this and from this, I think from the Celtics, and then LeBron James from the Heat. They were sacrificed, and the Foundation eventually was like, we are going to stop any unnecessary playbacks of this video for the sake of the next iteration of it, right? It is marked safe, the safe class, right? Because it doesn't do shit when you don't play it, but when it plays, you don't know what the hell is going on and what's going to happen to the people of the video, so you don't even want to risk it, right? Because at that point, whatever number playback they're on, whatever number playback they're on, they're not playing basketball anymore. They're just trying to survive, right? So you're probably not as intimately, everyone, I don't know about Ben, maybe he's seen this game, but you're probably not as intimately aware of what the opening game between the Miami Heat and the Celtics was like on that day. So let me give you some stats. Some notable names for the Heat that season was Mike Bibby, who I knew from the Kings. Then we have Dwayne Wade and LeBron James. For the Celtics, we have Paul Pierce, Shaq, and Kevin Garnett. That game resulted in an 88-80 with the Celtics winning, and it was played in the TD Garden, which is home of Celtics. For something more relevant to us, in the briefing, it doesn't state, and it's redacted, how many people were in that stadium at that time, but we know that on average for that year for attendance for the Heat was at 17,730, and for the Celtics it was like 18,169 per game. The TD Garden capacity is 19,600, so we can assume that at least maybe we can say low ball 17,000 people, high 19,000 people were in the stadium during that game. So it's not a small Groundhog Day happening to one person or like 5 people. It is considered a mass casualty type event impacting thousands of people at once, right? So 17th
it's a finals game, so probably or not finals,
it's an opening day, right? So everyone's like I want to be there, right? So 1733 is wild. So when it comes to people's reception and reactions to 1733, there's a lot of folks likening it to hell, posing their theories about why 1733 is the way it is and what happened after the last playback. There's a lot of questions about if people were cognizant while the video is not being played. If there's one question of like, okay, say someone's pregnant at 1733 and they're in their like final leg of being pregnant, and the shock and anxiety of the event causes them to give birth. If you're born in 1733, are you part of the world of the recording or part of real life world, which we've surmised from like the SCP deciding that like these are different from the people in real life? You would be part of the tape, the recordings world, not real life. You would have been born in the real life, like
in real life as well. But,
maybe you were born like a couple weeks later in real life, but in the game you were born there because your parent was like really stressed, right? So in this next section, I've decided to break it down into 3, right? Thoughts about 1733, questions about 1733, and then theories about 1733, but not from everybody else. From me, your boy. Yeah, because we gotta hear from me. Okay. So let's start with my thoughts. Start thinking. There are some very serious like fuck it we ball actions in this, because basically these people, once they're doing these things, are completely aware that they're gonna live the same day over again. So they're gonna try and do whatever they think they need to do or something, right? Like, was any of the violence the hedonistic sex, based on the decision that you know that you're gonna just relive the day again. Like the person that you absolutely knocked the shit out of is not gonna have that same injury the next playback, right? And like, yeah, but they remember it, right? So you're like, you're gonna risk like, I'm beating the shit out of this guy, but also he's gonna remember the next day. Maybe he's gonna beat the shit out of me the next day, right? And like, was the jump from the balcony in playback 112 because they thought that like I should just try it. I will probably come back in the next playback, but if I don't, I'm free from this situation now, right? Then like the whole like separate people idea really like kind of okay, the recording of the game, so it's like digital versions of those people, digital versions of us if we were in that game, and these people don't know that this is happening to some version of them. It's like possible that like some of the people, as the Foundation researched it over time, as real people, you may have like changed something about yourself, you broke an arm, chipped a tooth, gave birth, or even died between that time, but there is still like a moving, breathing, living version of you in this recording forever. Yeah. Right? You could have died a week after this game, but you are in this game forever and ever. Like for me, if this happened, would I want to know that there is something this bad happening to some version of myself out there, even if it's in this recording? Like, would I want to know? And what would I do when I find out what happens to me? And like all of the decisions that digital me decided to make during this whole thing, like should I be told that there is some version of me in like a digital world absolutely fucking going through it? Like what would that do to me? Like, okay, Ben, would you want to know that something is happening to digital Ben? And like, yeah, and like would you want to know about like what you decided to do? Like were you like beating the shit out of some guy, or were you part of the group that was like, we got to get the fuck out of here? Like would you want to know you're in this, something is happening to you, and what you were doing this whole time?
I mean, I guess knowing that you're in it wouldn't do anything, really, right? Like, it doesn't seem like they're separate things. They only exist within the confines of the tiny universe of the SCP, and there doesn't seem to. There's no way to get them out. There's no way to like, other than not playing it. That's the only way to like not draw out the suffering. So I guess I'd be like, I'd want to know so I could kind of advocate for it, but we just stop playing it and just like let them exist in nothingness. Yeah. You know?
I was kind of like, I was on the same thread as well, because I was like, well, like as long as it's not being played, and they seem to have decided that it's not going to be played over and over again, right? You have to get in touch with one of the researchers to even like play it back, and you have to have a good reason to play it back, right? So I'm like cool on that end. But like some part of me wants to know like what I was doing that whole time, because like a part of me is like, I think I would be with like the parents and the kids and anyone who needed like help, because like 2010, 14 years ago, like 15, right? So I'd definitely be with them, right? But like adult version of me would be like, I would be trying to help get the fuck out of there, that kind of thing. So I like, I'd like to know what I was doing, and if I was like helping, like to inform myself of what I would do in like situations that are like completely like desperate, right?
What if you became like
what if I was like 15 and be like, we must live, you know, that kind of thing. And you know, I'd be like, what was like LeBron James doing? What was Shaq doing? Like, he's fucking tall as shit. Was he trying to help break down the walls, or was he legitimately with like the teams hiding away from people? That kind
of, what's Chris Bosh doing? At the same time.
And why
all of them? Come on, that was a big Heat year.
Look, see, we've got someone whose ball is life is here. The B in Ben stands for ball Ben. Ben old ball.
Skip-ball. Basketball.
Ben skip-ball. So speaking of the groups and the teams, right? We have the factions, and I sort of mayhaps too deeply thought about the faction thing, like, because we have the people who are like the teams and their personnel using the arena as like a home base. Once they've basically hid away, they're like, fuck it, we're getting away from here, we're going back into our locker rooms and all that stuff. So for me, I was like, this could, if implanted this in like the panty world, right? These are people who basically have like the home base access to the arena. They can be seen as like the wealthy people who have like privilege to hide away from like all of the chaos that's happening in the stadium, right?
So like the team isn't like they're in the locker
they basically
room,
was like, fuck it, people in the stadium, you're fucked out here. We're gonna go hide away, right? The infirm and the parents and their kids can be seen as anyone who is at like a disadvantage, not fully able-bodied, or do not have full rights as people, you know, being a kid. And then we have the faith keepers, who in the world of the game were basically saying that like this is happening to us because of fucking consumerism. Yeah. So in our world, this is basically anyone in those like our world or any apocalyptic type fiction show. Like they're people who basically come close to like being high and mighty and using that as like a survival method to because they're like, oh, we're gonna keep our faith because and this is gonna help us like navigate because we're being punished because of this thing, right? And then we have the adults who are like steady trying to get the fuck out of there. They're just like, yeah, we're fucking stuck, but we decided we need to get the hell out of here. Thanks to the people who are protecting the people who need to be protected. Fuck the people who are like hiding away because they can. And faith keepers, you fucking do whatever you want, right? That kind of thing. I would hope, like I said, I'd be in the final group to try to get the heck out of there. But at 15, I'm probably gonna be with the kids and the parents. But like for me, it was interesting that even like in a chaotic and terrifying situation like this, people would still try to like segment as much as possible when it comes to like, this is being done to us because we are being punished for consumerism. You know, we got to go where we have access to being hidden away and being protected from the chaos. So fuck it. People end up still trying to do for like the protection, the privilege, and a little proselytizing, which I've had to spell many times in this essay, right? And then we're gonna go to questions because here's some questions that I had based on the events that happened in the game, right? Sacrifice. They did sacrifice twice in this to playback instances. For me, it was like, what was the point of the sacrifice? Because they don't elaborate in it in the text of the SCP briefing itself, right? How did they decide that it was going to be Paul Pierce and LeBron James, right? We know from Playback 65 that the Faith Keepers see this whole thing as punishment for rampant consumerism of the post-industrial world, which, like, but also, like,
that's what we're all about, though, baby. I mean,
but also, you're at a basketball game.
Gonna hate on America? That sounds like unpatriotic.
You're at a basketball game. You're engaging in idolatry, right? I'm pretty sure you're rocking like a LeBron James, a Shaq, like sure.
No, you're telling me you're not wearing the jersey?
Consumerism, idolatry, faith keeper. Check yourself, right? So I was thinking, okay, like maybe they decided on Paul Pierce and LeBron James because the consumerism, blah blah blah, post-industrial world. Were they the highest earning players on both teams at that year? Right? In the 29, so we'll go for the stats for the previous year since this is the start of this game, this season, right? In 2009 to 2010 season, Paul Pierce was number 7 in like the highest earning players. I think it was like 478, I think, and he was at number 7 at a measly 19,795,712. Then LeBron was at number 23 with 15,779,912 out of 478, right? They were number 7 and number 23 out of 478, right? Because if we were maybe going to go for the highest paid members of the team, it would still be Paul Pierce. He was fucked either way because the second next highest playing member of the same team was Ray Allen at number 8 with 18,776,860. For the Heat, it would have been Jermaine O'Neal, not LeBron James. But we don't know why they picked LeBron James. Maybe Paul Pierce was like, he's the richest one out of there, but it wasn't LeBron James, right?
Yeah. Is that? Yeah, I wonder if that was like on the author's choice. Like, you know, LeBron James has become like in conversation as like the GOAT, right? So like his SAR has only risen further, but that was still like fairly young LeBron, not like
that was 2010 young, LeBron. Yeah. So we don't know.
Yeah, he was only 23 on the ranking.
Like, how did the Faith Keepers decide that it was them and not any other players, right? Like, because maybe you're there, you're by that point that everyone's segmented into like these like factions. Maybe you're not thinking that straight. You're like, oh god, guys, I remember Paul Pierce is fucking rich as hell. He's the richest guy on the team, right? And also there's a bit about sacrificing children in one of the like the last recorded playbacks, right? Why is it always kids sacrificing children? How do you come to that conclusion? Is it just like the stereotypical thing that's like, well, I guess like they do this in other like media, right? They sacrifice the kids. So we should give it a try because I mean, they'll come back on the next playback, right? With all the memories of these adults deciding that they're going to like die. But like, sure. But what if there's not another playback? And if there was, wouldn't all of these kids and their families remember what you did to them and how it resulted in nothing? Like what would you say like to these parents? Like, hey man, we need to try it just once. And like, it's crazy. Like, I don't know if anyone, I don't know if you've seen like that episode of Torchwood where like it was decided that like children needed to be like sacrificed or something because it was the request of like some sort of higher power creature. And they decided that like all of the disadvantaged kids would be the ones sacrificed.
Sure. Yeah.
They're like, these people are going to end up not going to great schools and stuff like that. So we might as well, because they're going to turn into criminals instead. Like that kind of thing. Like, why is it always let's sacrifice the kids? Let's sacrifice the kids, the infirm.
Yeah, I think it's a good kind of like it's showing how far a group has gone, right? When they're sacrificing kids. It was like a writing thing like, look, they're so
they're
far
defenseless.
gone. Willing to sacrifice children.
So why sacrifice LeBron James and Paul Pierce? Why sacrifice children when they're going to come back and remember? Because I think the LeBron James and Paul Pierce one was before the child sacrifice one. So what are you gonna you're like hey LeBron, remember we fucking killed you and like Paul Pierce? Because it wasn't described really terribly in the thing, but like they were sacrificed and they were like basically like strung up to be shown as killed. So I'm like, I'm LeBron James in the next playback and I'm like, I'm gonna trust you. I'm going the fuck back inside, right? So now theories, JD theories this time. My theory is that this is the first circle of hell for sports fans, right? Because you're like the anticipation of the first game of the season. You want to fucking win, and this is the circle of hell for the Heat fans, because they're like, fuck my life, we lost over and over again, over and over and over and over again. And I posted this to my friends and I was like, guys, I cooked in 2 hours writing this section. It's the first circle of hell for sports fans. Let me cook. And my friend was like, being a sports fan is the first circle of hell, I promise. And I was like, can I quote this? And they were like, absolutely. I stand by this so much that I offer you these 2 text posts another Leafs fan posted after we lost, that I immediately saved for future uses. And it says, it was a Tumblr post that says, sorry, we stuck your team into a perpetual never-ending time loop that is always doomed to result in tragedy. Sorry, we stuck your team into a perpetual never-ending time loop that is always doomed to result in tragedy. Over and over again. And the next one is, it's always don't repeat the cycle and beware of the cycle, and never how was the cycle? Was it fun to be in the cycle? So my little joking conclusion about sports, this being a sports hell, turns out it is a sports hell. Yeah, it's relatable. So for me, like just in general, the first circle of hell according to like Dante's Inferno is like limbo. And so let me cook for like 1 second, just a little bit, right? This could be an iteration of some sort of limbo that these people have entered without knowing, right? So this is not necessarily like the folks who would have been in Dante's Inferno, like the first circle of hell, which is like anyone who wasn't like baptized, anyone who wasn't around before, blah, blah, blah. So they didn't do anything bad, but they were just like limbo, right? This could be some sort of like limbo state for the stadium and the people, like a limbo for the Heat fans, like perpetual loss. Like, I don't know, do the Celtics fans like the Celtics? Maybe like their circle of hell is like watching the Celtics like do a good job despite like not having done it the previous times. I don't know. Maybe limbo for them is like spending time with the Celtics and knowing them as people instead of, you know, right? Like maybe this is what stands an intense fans need, like 100 days in a stadium to realize that your idol is a real person. Stuck with you until the end of time, maybe, who knows. Come to think of it though, some stans would be happy in the situation, stuck with their number one idol for the rest of their lives. I'm sorry instead to the idol or the actor or the sports player. Next is my theory that like the hell is like repetition. When I was looking for the idea that hell is repetition based on like people's comments about like this whole story being a manifestation of hell for them, I googled the term because I was like, this has to be like someone's thought that like hell is repetition, right? And I was gonna try. That was the main way that I thought I was gonna get to like Dante's Circle of Hell, but instead I came across Storm of the Century, which is, you know, our boy, maybe not our boy Stephen King. I don't know, is he our boy? He's a boy.
There. He's like okay. Icon, I'd say.
Cultural icon, Stephen King. The work, the TV series Storm of the Century, it was concept of hell, which is aligned with the thing that I was trying to figure out. I ended up, once again, I didn't watch Storm of the Century. I went on the Wikipedia page. I read a bunch of articles. I was going to go and watch that. Now that I've watched 2 television shows based on basketball. And I ended up reading the wiki and basically gave the information a shake in my head and figured that maybe like 1733 is kind of like Storm of the Century. But if you have seen Storm of the Century, you're like, JD, what the fuck? Ben's like, no, tell me all about it. And then everyone else who's like, I've seen it. JD, you're fucking wrong.
I've never heard of Storm of the Century.
So basically Storm of the Century is like this guy, like this, there's gonna be like a storm happening in this fucking town. This guy busts in along with the storm and starts like fucking shit up, right? Like he's maybe a wizard, he's maybe a magical man, but whatever, right? So let's go with the starting quote from the scene that I watched, where Linoche, don't know, the town visitor, that he's the guy who fucks up everything for everyone. He's telling Robbie Beals about his mother in hell and the things that she's done, and he says she's waiting for you in hell, and she's turned cannibal. When you get there, she's going to eat you alive over and over and over again, because that's what hell is about, Robbie. Repetition. I think in our hearts, most of us know that, right? So forget about the cannibalism for 1 second. Hannibal Lecter. And let's zero in on, that's what hell is all about, Robbie. Repetition. What if 1733 is just like Storm of the Century? Because we have like the Groundhog Day types of movies, but like we can go for that, but like once again, it's only happening to like one person, right? And maybe some people who are aware of it. But in Storm of the Century, it has a bit more in common with 1733, which is like we've got a group of people, a town being terrorized by an event or a person. We've got some proselytizing from Leno, who is like evangelizing about like, this is what happens when you don't welcome people into your town. People start fucking dying. People start going to jail, right? And most importantly, the sacrifice of children to some being that supposedly results in the end of the terror, right? So maybe my theory is a little bit undercooked, but because I've never seen Storm of the Century and 1733's author wasn't thinking about this. But you know what? What if I'm right? Huh? Right? Some of my favorite theories about it from other people is the following, from the Walking Dude, who says, my personal theory is that there's nothing sinister behind this one. It was created to allow coaches to literally replay games and figure out how to beat their opponents better, and all the horror is an unintended side effect, and probably why the original owner got rid of the thing, right? So and then because that, to me, I was like, maybe, because like, what if this just innocuous thing it exists, but because we're humans and we do shit, it became sinister? Like, what if the red light at the end of the very last playback was just a coincidence and the cameras just gave up or something? Because this would be kind of funny, because like the person was just like, I make this to see every possibility of the game ever, but then I didn't know that people would start remembering. So I'm going to fucking throw this away or put this on Facebook and leave it alone. So that'd be funny, but also a little terrifying, right? Another is that this could be related to the creator's other work, which is SCP-6614, which is a DVD copy of the season 5 of The Sopranos. It's basically a DVD copy of the show where you can press the play button and have the ability to control the camera, the in-world camera, and go wherever you want in the show setting. And you can only reset it by ejecting the DVD and cleaning it with like a wipe and some sort of disinfectant thing, right? So OP, I guess, loves fucking with digital media, it seems, right? So I'm sure there are other theories, but these are some of my favorites where it's like it's connected to OP's previous work, but also just that it might just be an innocuous thing that turned a little crazy, because sometimes things like that happen in real life, right? So now that we've talked about my thoughts and questions and theories, let's go to our most favorite thing on the show. Why is this scary? Right? Going on the SCP Reddit, we see that people do think this is scary from the point of view from inside the video, right? User Josh Guan writes, "There's no salvation for them. They can keep killing themselves, but they will just keep coming back after the recording ends. I imagined being in their position, but I could not sleep last night." And user Cyril Moraine agrees, responding with, "It's definitely upsetting for sure. People being trapped inside a pocket dimension that repeats itself over and over again if someone on the outside hits replay. That's a little scary, right? Because maybe the guy who was watching it initially kept replaying it and realized something was happening and then was a sinister fucking dude. Instead of posting it about it on Facebook, just decided to watch these people get tortured forever and ever. We're a little lucky that it ended up in the hands of SCP as opposed to this evil anime villain. Yeah, right? Yeah. So repeating a day in your life and being stuck in it and then later becoming cognizant that you're doing over and over again is kind of a little scary, right? If I consider today and think about living it over and over again, in the first couple of runs, I would be fine because I wake up, I have a snack, I have a decaf Vietnamese coffee. And then I record with Ben and then I'm going to go out to dinner. That's fine in the first few times because I know that nothing weird happens. But like I replay it and I become aware that I'm just living the same day over and over again. I think my mind would decay at the idea of no possible escape because I'm the only single person running through it. Maybe if my whole family was aware of it, maybe if you ended up becoming aware of it, I'd be a little fine because you're in it with me. But how do we get out of it, right? Could you make it down here in time could I make it up there in time to be like, hey, Ben, we got to figure this out. But then what if we just fall back asleep and we got to do it over and over again? Right? Like I'm a thinker, we're thinkers, we would do our best to get out, but I think that would just I would go out to the extremes. I think by the 200th relive of this day, and I would just figure out how to get myself out of it. I would figure out like what's permanent, what's impermanent, what would I do, right? Never being able to move on and grow and break free from a day would definitely ruin my mind and lead me to do some very drastic things to try and break free from the day and also break free from myself in general. But then to then have that happen to thousands of people at once, there's a level of chaos there that we wouldn't be able to understand as a group of people, and panic would 100% ensue and we wouldn't be able to get out of it, I think. I promise you, a lot of people would, for me in my head, like it is like a lot of people would try their best to get out of the day, but I think a lot of people would just end up being like, fuck it, we ball. Because what has the pandemic taught us about the way we try to get out of something together? Right? Like some of us have like kind of like given in like, it's gonna fucking, I'm gonna get COVID, fuck it. Some people are still trying not to get it. Some people have been just like, well, how do we get through it? How do we get out of it? That kind of thing, right? And another thing that scares me is the factions that broke out that felt a little too real, right? Of course, people cope by grouping with other people to protect each other or to keep thriving, right? The idea that in the space where we know we're definitely all stuck, a faith-keeping group could come about and just spend the whole time going, this is happening because X, and not going, we need to figure out how to get out of this, and this is how. It's completely like a little buck wild to me, but like I get it since it does happen in real life, right? And it just makes me want to strangle someone. I think it was because I was writing this at night, right? Like I completely understand the need to cope by like holding onto a system of belief you have, but like, going to that end. Once again, if we think of the pandemic, we can definitely like connect this to 1733, right? Every day, some of us were confined to the home with stay-at-home orders. Some of us lived in small apartments and were confined at home for safety and with others in mind. Some of us had to go out and work as essential employees, caring for others without the ability to care for ourselves or themselves, right? There were those like the players and the personnels able to thrive and survive in their spaces, in their large homes, and their money, and their renditions of Imagine on You know, imagine all of you. Yeah,
Like,
really got us through it. Thank you so much. There, yeah, thank you, Galgado. Never misses. There were those who are similar to the infirm, their parents and their kids, who had to navigate a strange world. They had to navigate a world where that couldn't decide if they did care about the disabled, the immunocompromised, the kids, and families who couldn't survive without a member of their family at work, kids who stayed home for several years and came out unable to connect with other people, right? People who had to care for several family members in the face of all the denial and all the shit that came out through the ongoing pandemic. We also have faith keepers who treated the pandemic like a sign from God, right? That we've disobeyed him for too long. Like only the religion and punishment of that religion mattered above all other religions and beliefs, who didn't see this as a punishment, right? We've now got too many like LGBTQ people out there. So now coronavirus is here to take out all of us. Like, sure. Then we have a notable portion of adults who were doing their best to try and figure out a way out, right? Researchers, doctors, everyday people who like smack their own heads around to figure out how to keep people safe in the face of faith, gate, and hate keepers, right? Maybe OP, who wrote this along, I think it was like 12. I think they wrote this. They may have wrote this at the time when it came out. I completely forgot, but they didn't write it during the pandemic for sure. So maybe OP thinking about the pandemic and the way they wrote 1733 and going, oh shit, we have been in this stadium together for way too long. We are at the 100th, 200th playback of the pandemic. We are deep into this tape now.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, 1733. Who knew basketball could do this to you?
Yeah, that's great. I like your pandemic reading. I think that's really interesting. And I think in terms of like going back to like your hell afterlife thing, I thought of, did you come across like No Exit, like that old Sartre play? I think that like the most famous line from it is hell is other people.
Yeah, I know that line, but I didn't know where that is from.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, it's basically like, it's like a play about the afterlife where it's like three people stuck in like a waiting room and like how they descend into, you know, literally murdering each other, but then still being trapped with each other because they're in the afterlife and this is their punishment in hell, right? They reveal all the fucked up shit they did in their lives, and then they're still, after the end of it, they're still in the thing, and it just continues on. So I think that there's like some elements of that there for sure, with like on like a larger scale, but like this kind of hell as other people, the repetition, and being stuck in this like unending loop where it seems like there's nothing to do but continue. So I had some questions on like the kind of, if they discuss the framing of it, because obviously real life there's people operating the cameras. Is it just like the main camera on?
Yeah. I remember that it starts as like a recording various cameras, but at one point it starts just being the stadium cam, a static cam.
Yeah.
So no one's controlling the cameras. The camera operators are just now. Yeah.
They're in the mix as well, presumably. Yeah. Okay. And like, if it just continues to play, is there like an end to each playback?
Like, I think, so basically the playback notes for this whole thing is just like events noted. I think maybe it ends at they stop playing it at a certain point when they realize something is happening, or they just continue like play it back while they're doing research. Because I don't, in the text, the body of the text itself, like I don't see anything that's like, and the day ends with this. Yeah.
Okay. I was like, does it, like, if you just left it on, would their lives continue after the point of the game? Like, would it just be like an empty stadium?
Like, I wonder if it's like, because the game ended here when it was recorded, like maybe it ends at where the person stopped recording. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So there's like a finite amount of time in each playback. Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah, that was I
literally was just like
darker topic than I thought you were gonna.
Shaggy Dog, there's gonna be a bunch of replays, and then no, they fucking sacrificed a bunch of kids. They fucking sacrificed Paul Pierce and LeBron James. I was like, hello?
Yeah, right, and yeah, like the elements of either the afterlife or also just being in our our system is willing
Yeah.
to sacrifice
Yeah.
people,
Hmm.
human lives to continue on or maintain the semblance of
Hmm.
normalcy and
Hmm.
keep the economy moving. Yeah, very relatable. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I think you're thinking like at the end of the day, are we not all just trapped in this
Yeah,
stadium?
we're trapped in the stadium of life together. What, as people, what are we choosing to be a part of? Are we the ones who are trying to
Mhm.
get out of it? Are we the people, the infirm and the parents and their kids? Are we the people hiding
Yeah.
away because we don't want to be part of the chaos? Or are we the faith keepers?
Mhm.
Like, "Oh, we're being punished because it's because you're always on that phone."
Yeah. Or are we like JD
We're
and we're like a baller?
on
you
his
know, like,
life.
is that-
I may be 4'11", but I can shoot. Oh, I can shoot
Yeah.
from the logo. No, I cannot. I can shoot from the just a little half court, and it is in this position. And sometimes I just lob it. But as a short person, you can trust me on any of those like penalty shots, okay? Because I either know that I will miss it, and then someone will rebound it for me, or I can get it. I need a little swish. So.
There's two. Yeah. Either I make the shot.
Or I don't make the shot and someone else comes up for me. I trust them. You know? Ball is life, and the life is you got to trust your teammates.
Yeah. I wonder, do you think there's a reason that it was that year?
I don't know. Season. I think that's like one of the questions is like, why was it this year? Like the questions I have is like, why was it this year? Why was it these people who were chosen? Why did you choose this game? Why did you choose this team of people? And it was just like a lot of like, oh, how much did this person earn this year? What was that? Was the year special?
You were looking for the significance.
I was just like, man, I'm gonna be looking at like NBA stats like all fucking day. We could just ask the OP like, hey, do you remember writing this like in? Do you remember fucking writing this in like 2010, whatever, and like why you fucking chose the Heat? And then like when I first saw this, I thought it was like someone noticed this recording like in like 2014, blah blah blah. No, they noticed it on a rewatch the next day,
like immediately.
So they caught it immediately, and I was like, God, what the fuck? Like, what if this was like discovered in 2015 and these people have already like lived like 700, a couple thousand replays of this thing? Like, what would they?
Yeah, it was like somebody caught it on their TiVo back in 2010.
So it's like there's a lot of things we could do like about this and think some more on this, and it's like. Like as a researcher, I think I would have stopped the second. I would argue to stop at the second that like people have started killing each other, and then maybe like on the next play of that, and I know they're coming back, and I see that they're going after their attack. I'd be like, shit, we have to stop here. I don't know how you feel. Yeah, how you feel getting to like. I just literally am. Like maybe you didn't see the sacrifice happening, but now you're at the point where like you're literally seeing Paul Pierce and LeBron James, like who have the aftermath of that. I don't know if I'm gonna replay it the next time because I'm like, fuck, like in game in this video, LeBron James and Paul Pierce are dead. Do I just leave it at that, or I play it again the next day? Right. Yeah. Like, do I after they've sacrificed these kids, do I go and play it again to see if the kids are alive? But like. Because the end numbers are redacted for like that sequence, I don't know if like the red light happens immediately on the next playback after they've sacrificed the kids, or if that's just like a notable playback that's like 30 playbacks after, you know? Yeah.
Right. And then like in the context of the SCP Foundation, I mean, to what end is the replay going on other than exploring the anomaly, right? It's like there's no end goal really of like lessening the suffering of these people. It's only to understand more, which I think is kind of part of the SCP's like thing, right? Is like they're like a stand-in for kind of like a faceless
like org.
Progress.
Yeah, because if the people SCP knows that like the people in the video are not suffering out here. Yeah. What can I do about like? I see them like suffering. I see them absolutely going through it, but I can't take them out of the video. Taking them out of the video is like nothing because they're out here. They're fine. they're alive, they're going through it, but they are going through it in this video. Like, I could stop because morally I feel bad about it.
Right. And that's what eventually does how it does end. But like, there is no end goal other than watching the thing, right? I mean, observing the spectacle is the end
they're just
goal
like,
in itself.
nah, don't play it anymore unless you have a fucking reason. Hit up this doctor part of the artwork, but there's no reason to watch it over and over again, right? Because there's no reason to believe that if it's not playing, it's still happening. So the conclusion is like, when it's not playing, nothing is happening to them. So we might as well just never play it. Yeah.
Never play. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Responsibility of the SCP Foundation is that big.
If only people would stop playing us.
Hey. This episode was written and produced by Ben and JD. For all our sources, please head to the website in the description below. If you'd like to reach out with a comment, suggestion, share one of your workplace occupational folklore with us, send us a message at icecreamumeme@gmail.com. All the music for the podcast is provided by Yoga Frank. Thanks so much for listening. We'll catch you on the next episode. Please play us again.